Good afternoon, family. Thanks for checking out today's video. If you're new here, my name is Jonathan, and I created this channel as a way to record my progress as I work towards my goal of losing 300 pounds. If you'd like to join the family, hit that subscribe button. Also, make sure you click on the bell icon so you get alerted when I go live or post new videos. If you'd like to participate in on the live discussion, you can join me most weekdays where I go live on YouTube around 4 p.m. Central Time, or outside of YouTube, you can consider joining the Discord I've created. There is a link for that down in the description below. Also down in the description below is a link to a Pinterest board. That is a great place for you guys to see some of the meals and recipes that I've been eating as I've been working towards my goal of losing 300 pounds. Today is day 867 of my challenge to lose 300 pounds. I've used a combination of extended water fasting and a whole food, plant-based, salt, oil, sugar-free diet to lose over 240 pounds so far. If anybody has any non-scale victories they'd like to share, I'd love to hear your non-scale victories. If you have any on-scale victories, I love hearing those as well. If you are succeeding with your diet, let us know what you're doing to succeed. Share your knowledge with us. If you're struggling, let us know what's causing some of your struggles. Maybe we can help you out. And at the end of the day, what are some of the things that you are doing or you can do that will make staying on your diet easier than the alternative? Normally I switch over to the main screen, but I'm already on it because I messed up setting up here. But anyways, I hope everybody had a wonderful evening and a great day today. We're going to talk a little bit about feeling lucky instead of yucky. So if anybody has any examples of how they feel lucky instead of yucky, I'd love to hear your examples of that. But real quick, we're going to go ahead and talk about food that I've had in the past 20 hours here, 24 hours. So let me go ahead and pull that up. Carrie and the kids were out of town, but they got back yesterday, and I could have sworn I took more photos, and I did not take more photos. So we're not going to have very exciting photos here. So last night for dinner, I had eaten through all of the wonderful food Carrie had prepared for me. And so I was down to having to cook for myself. So I took the easy road out and just made some potatoes and broccoli. I had not had much potatoes and broccoli the whole time they were gone. And so I had some potatoes that I forgot to bring to work yesterday at home. So I just reheated those, mixed them with some broccoli and a little bit of table tasty. And then today, I had broccoli for breakfast. I had oatmeal. I didn't take a photo of it. I'm sure I could find a photo on my phone. I have a million photos of the oatmeal that we have every morning. But I had oatmeal this morning. And then for lunch today, more potatoes and broccoli. So I'm pretty much mono-dieted potatoes and broccoli for the past 24 hours, essentially. But I feel very full and I feel very satisfied. So I'm happy with just having potatoes and broccoli, which is funny to say. But it's very green. Today is St. Patty's Day. Oh, wrong picture, wrong button. Today is St. Patty's Day. I hope everybody is feeling lucky today. Yeah, so very green meals for St. Patrick's Day here. Cindy and Tennis and Yoga Girl, Pretty Girl's mom, Christy, Amy, everybody checking in, saying hello, happy Friday to all. I hope you're excited for the weekend or you're getting ready for the weekend. Is anybody making anything special for St. Patrick's Day? Are you making any special Irish dinners or anything for that? I'd love to hear what you guys are doing for that. Let's see. Today, not a whole lot going on with everything else. It's really just been a busy day. Like every other day is very busy. Um, what I wanted to talk about a little bit today was feeling yucky and not feeling yucky anymore, and how I used to feel versus how I feel now. And I feel very lucky that I don't feel yucky anymore. I used to be uh, just in this constant state of dismay or just awful feeling. Cindy here says you're having a salad for dinner. That's green. Yes, a very green dinner. That's great. But yeah, I used to just always be in this constant feeling of disgust and just not feeling very good. And everything was more difficult than it should have been. Walking was difficult. Even just standing became difficult. If you go back and you watch my earliest videos, you can hear my breathing is extremely labored. Just doing anything would cause my heart rate to go up, and I'd breathe heavy, and I would just feel awful all the time. Carrie checking in, saying hello, Carrie and Jean. Let's see. Jean says she's also having a salad for dinner. It sounds like it's contagious. um, let's see. Everybody's saying, our pretty girl's mom here says you missed you, Carrie. Yes, everybody comes here for Carrie, and when she's gone, it's so sad. But yeah, I used to really just have a hard time even breathing. And I notice it in other people now too. I can tell sometimes, you hear it when you're in line and you hear somebody breathing heavy, or you're talking to somebody and you just think, man, it doesn't have to be that difficult. Oh, Jean's making a little bit of a broccoli cauliflower bisque soup. That's awesome. And just physically, my joints would constantly be in pain doing anything like that. And then, one of the biggest issues I had was the sleep apnea, and how that kind of had this cloud over my whole life that, if I didn't have the machine, I wouldn't feel good. If the machine wasn't working well, I wouldn't feel good. And I would feel, it wasn't even that, I would feel worse. I was never really in a position where I would ever feel good. I would just not feel as bad because I had the CPAP machine, and that was helping me with the sleeping issues that I had. And then so I felt physically yucky from head to toe, and that really weighs on you mentally. And so you start to feel mentally yucky. And it's extremely taxing on your mind to be obese. Pretty Girl's mom says you're down another pound this week. That's awesome, Pretty Girl's mom. I'm happy to hear that. Jean says, if I think about it, let's see, I was carrying extra 200 pounds on every step I took. Really, yeah, that's really an extra 300 pounds. I was carrying 240 more pounds than I'm carrying now, but I still am carrying around an extra 60 pounds. And when I think of that, 235 pounds, like that is a large person that I'd be carrying on my back, or a couple small people that I would be carrying on my back. And all of that just physically weighs on you every single day. And you don't even have to be doing anything for that to be physically taxing on your body. Just even sitting down on the chair, there was additional weight still bearing down on my body. And just day after day. And it was a relentless, it was never a reprieve. In fact, I was reading a story yesterday, somebody who was grossly overweight talking about going swimming and how awesome it was to finally get into a pool again, and to feel that weightlessness. And then they talked about how saddening it was when they got out of the pool and they took their body time to recover and to realize the weight that it had to bear again. For that brief moment or for that brief time of swimming for 30 minutes, the body finally got a bit of a reprieve, and then it was back at it. And, so for 23 and a half hours of the day, the body is dealing with that excess weight. And that's if you get to go swimming. I never went swimming, or I didn't swim much, and many people don't go swimming because they don't want to go to a public pool when they're grossly overweight. And so it's just a constant bearing on your body, and that becomes physically draining, and it becomes very mentally draining. And you then become in this constant battle with yourself of, how do I fix this? How do I get out of this awful feeling? How do I get that reprieve? How do I get that rest from being this way? And it can't come quick is the problem. You want it to happen as easy as getting in a swimming pool and feeling weightless. That's how quick you wish you could get rid of the weight, but it won't come off that quick. And so you just have this mental fight and struggle you have with yourself, because that in some way you put yourself in this position because you got to being so overweight, and you want to try so hard to fix it, but everything that you do is tough to do. So, Gene here says it's very hard to carry 100-pound bag across the shed is tough. Yeah. And if somebody had a 235-pound backpack laying on the ground and said, hey, pick this up and walk around with it, it would be extremely tough for me to do that. But if they said, hey, every day for the next, 235 days, we're going to add 1 pound to this backpack, then, after 235 days, it's still going to be difficult, but it wouldn't be as difficult as just picking up the backpack and going. But yeah, it's tough, carrying around that weight. And I talked a little bit about, fitting in my shower and how amazing it is that there is so much space. And when I look at the photo of myself from my first day that I pull up here, I just am amazed at how round, how much space my abdomen takes up. And this photo doesn't even really give you a great perspective of how much it was sticking out in front of my body. And now that's gone. It's almost like, it's wild because I can feel the bottom of my sternum, like the bone at the bottom of my sternum. And I don't ever remember being able to like feel that bone. And then like when I lay on my back, my stomach it's not a mountain in front of me. It's more like a flat plain, instead of a big mountain in front of me. So it's crazy how much my body has changed physically in these past couple years, and I'm so happy for it. And so, after all of these years of just feeling yucky day after day, week after week, month after month, just feeling bad, and then the next day not feeling any better, just feeling worse over and over and over. And now I feel extremely lucky. And one of the biggest things that I feel lucky about is that I was able to stop falling for the allure or the I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but like the old diet mistakes I used to make. Just I quit falling for those same mistakes that I used to make over and over. The idea that it is about calories in, calories out. The idea that if you eat less food and you do more work, you'll lose weight. And it can work for short periods of time, but it's not going to work for the length of time you need it to work. That's something that you can do that for a week or 2 weeks, but eventually it becomes so taxing on your body. And it's not a great mindset, because you're going from eating as much as possible and doing as little effort. That's how I used to live. I would eat as much as my body could allow me to fit in there, and I would do as little effort as possible. And you decide, hey, we're just going to go complete 180 on that. We're going to say, hey, we're going to work out as much as possible and eat as little as we can. And you totally take your body from what it was kind of doing naturally, which was eating as much as it wanted and doing as little effort as possible. And you're trying to retrain yourself to be a completely different person. And what people don't realize is that if you fix the food that you're eating, you can make this process happen and you can be satisfied while doing it. You continue, by eating a whole food plant-based diet, you continue to get to eat the same volume of food that you used to eat. And in some cases, like with this diet, I've had to rethink what I thought a portion size was, because the diets that I used to eat before had such high calorie density that you had to be so concerned about portion in order to be at a calorie deficit within a day. But now, by eating a whole food plant-based diet, I can eat those big portions of food because they're so low in calorie. The density of those foods is so low in calories that I get to eat large portions of food. What people think of as a salad when you go to a restaurant is like the first 5 bites of my 50 bites of salad that I'm going to have that day. Or, like it's the portions that you have to eat to lose weight while eating high calorie dense foods is absurd. They're extremely small, and it'd be impossible to continually convince your body to keep eating that small amount of food. And so by eating a plant-based diet, you get to still feed into that natural instinct that you've always fed into, and that's to eat as much food as you want. You just change the calorie density, and then you don't have to do more exercise. But over time, you're going to lose that weight that is making it more difficult to do anything. And so once some of the weight starts coming off, then your activity level is going to increase naturally. The only reason you are so sedentary right now at 400 pounds or 500 pounds or however much you weigh, the only reason you are that level of sedentary is because of how much you weigh. If you weighed 100 pounds less, you would be less sedentary. If you weighed 200 pounds less, you would be less sedentary. And so by changing your food, naturally bringing your body's weight down, you're going to increase your activity level. And then once you get to a point where you feel good about being able to be active, then you can start pushing it and trying to do more active things. But to go from being a couch potato to deciding I'm going to get on an elliptical machine or a treadmill or a bike for a half hour, an hour every day, or 3 days a week for the rest of my life, it's an impossible task for so many people. Like, just think about, what can you do the rest of your life? if I said, could you track your calories, track your workouts, and do that the rest of your life? Is that how you want the rest of your life to be? Is that set that you have to track everything? Or if I said the rest of your life, you could eat as much food as you feel like you want and still be a healthy weight, which one are you going to choose? You're going to pick the one that is, I get to eat as much as I want and I don't have to worry about the tracking and the calorie deficits and all of that other stuff. Like it can be a natural diet. It can feel natural to get to a healthy weight. I think you would choose that way. And so I'm lucky that I got out of those old diet mindsets and I found this way of eating. I feel lucky physically. I don't have those same respiratory issues that I used to have. I'm sure I still get somewhat out of breath more than I should be. And when I lose the next 60 pounds, I will get, my respiratory system will get better than it is now. And I will, I'll see even more improvements physically. But the being able to pop out of bed first thing in the morning, incredible physical difference. Being able to go up and down flights of stairs without having my heart rate spike to 1,000,005 is an incredible physical improvement that I've had, that I feel lucky that I've been able to do that. My flexibility is vastly superior to what it used to be, and I feel lucky for that. And then that, just like all of those physical problems that made me feel yucky led to mental issues that made me feel yucky. The physical issues that make me feel lucky now also make me feel mentally lucky. I feel like I've really found what I've needed this whole time. The thing that I've been searching for 20 years, the diet I was looking for, I feel lucky that I found it. And it makes me feel good to eat this way too. Like when I was on previous diets and I would have a set amount of things that I was allowing myself to eat, whatever was on the diet. I would still have to restrict how much of those items I could eat. So if I would overeat on things that were still compliant within my diet, that would cause a mental toll on me. But with the diet I'm eating now, if I overeat rice or potatoes, if I overeat broccoli, if I overeat onions, I don't feel mentally taxed. I don't feel like I've failed in any way. I just feel like I needed more food and my body will do with that food what it wants. And that's a big difference that this diet has afforded me from other diets, because I know with other diets, I may have been able to stay compliant and continue to eat the keto diet. But at a certain point, the calorie amount or the volume that I'd be eating would still make it impossible for me to be at a calorie deficit or for me to lose weight. Even if I saw success early, eventually I would lose it. And I also, I feel lucky in all those ways. I feel lucky that I found the diet. I feel lucky how physically I am and how mentally I am. And I then have to sit there and think, why did I get lucky? Why was I so lucky? When it feels like there's so many people out there that aren't lucky, or they haven't found, like, I feel fortunate and I feel like there's an infinite number of possibilities of things that I could have done on November 1st, 2020, when I started this challenge. And I feel extremely grateful and extremely lucky that this is the path that I went down, or the path that I eventually got to. And, a big part of why I got lucky was that I was open-minded. I did not have any closed off preconceived notions, or I had closed off preconceived notions, but I allowed myself to work past them, to allow my skepticism of my own knowledge, because if I knew so much, I wouldn't have been 520 pounds. If I was so smart, if I knew everything about diet, then I would not have been 520 pounds. So I had to be open and willing to give something that seemed unorthodox a shot. And that was a big part of why I got lucky, because there really is nothing unique about me versus anybody else that you see in the grocery store or walking down the street. I'm just a regular person who had fallen into the pleasure trap and was deeply ensnared in it. And probably worse than most people. And, the fact that I switched to this way of eating is probably even less likely because of how just brainwashed I was about food and about things. And the finding this golden ticket of this diet, it's not unique to me. Like, it could be anybody that finds this diet. It's all of you people that are watching me on my live streams, the Janets and the Pretty Girls and the Jeans and the Our Tiny Acres, and all of you that are eating a whole food plant-based diet. I don't think any of you started eating a whole food plant-based diet. At some point, you got lucky as well. And you found eating a plant-based diet. You found Chef AJ. You found True North. Like, you found that golden ticket that you needed to find to finally get that in your mind, get that spark going that got you to start down the same path. And so, like, I'm not unique. And there's lots of people that have done this before, I did it, and there's going to be lots of people that find it after I do it here, and anybody can stumble across this way of eating. And it could be you watching this video right now, that you saw some random video about somebody feeling lucky, and you're watching this video and you're listening to me talk about eating a whole food, plant-based, salt, oil, sugar-free diet, and you have no idea what I'm talking about. And you go and you Google it and you start researching it. And then maybe that was the spark that you had to see. But we all saw something. We all had something that changed our mind, that made us decide to give it a shot. And then now that we are doing it, we see how much easier it is than it used to be, I look at the people around me too, and I just think, like, how do they not see how lucky I am? How lucky I've gotten, how good I feel. They've seen me lose so much weight. And I just think, what more proof do some of these people need to, like, I was as bad as you get. There's nobody in my life that I can point to and say that person was heavier than me, and And I reversed that. I changed that. Like in front of all of their eyes, I went from a ticking time bomb to a solid rock, like, um, and it gets frustrating too, like I wish the people around me would follow, and some have seen that spark, or that, seeing me lose the weight, seeing Carrie lose the weight has sparked some people, but it hasn't sparked as many as I expected it would at this point, and I think I said it the other day is, I'm not to my final weight. I'm not to the 219 or as close to 200 as I get, whatever my goal, whatever my weight gets to, I'm not there yet. And when I do get there, when I get that last 60 pounds gone, I think there will be some changes in that. I think that it will change, but I part of me also thinks that what is keeping those people from believing is that they don't believe that it's going to stick. They are unwilling to accept that it's going to continue to make me feel this good and continue to net me these positive results that I'm seeing. Like that's, I think, and many people are skeptical because of their own experiences, or even seeing my previous experiences, because I have had that issue. I have lost weight and said, hey, this is how you do it. You should do this. And then fast forward a year later and I've gained a lot of that weight back. And then, so it's like, well, if that was the way you did it, why aren't you still thin? So for me, continuing to keep at this and to continue to prove them wrong, prove that, that idea that this is a short-term thing, will help to try to sway some people. And I also wonder sometimes if people, if they want their weight loss, like if they want it to be difficult, because if you found out that losing weight was not difficult, how would you feel about all that effort you put in for the past 20 years or 30 years or 40 years, depending on who you are? Like how, if it was so hard for those, and I look at, like, I'm living it right now. I'm dealing with it right now. It was so hard for 20 years, from the time I was 18 to the time I was 38. It was an impossible task that I continually failed wildly. I would lose a little bit and I would gain more. I'd lose a little bit and I would gain more. And it got me to the point where I was 520 pounds. And at 520 pounds, weight loss had proven to me to be the most difficult obstacle in my life. And that I was never going to be able to surmount it, and very close to starting to look into medical kind of surgeries to help fix it, because I didn't think I could succeed. I didn't think I could win. And that might be part of why I water fasted, because doing an extended water fast, absolutely the most extreme, difficult possible thing to put yourself through to lose weight. And I did that, and I put myself through that ridiculously extreme, difficult time. And it wasn't as difficult as, but I thought it was going to be, or I had that mindset going into a water fast, or many people do. But then out of it, I start eating this volume diet, this whole food, plant-based, no salt, oil, sugar free. And it has not been difficult to eat this way. It's difficult to deal with the world, difficult to live in this world and eat a whole food, plant-based, salt, oil, sugar-free diet. But if I could control the world I live in, it's easy to succeed. If you can get rid of the temptations in your house, get rid of the temptations that are around you most of the time, it is easy to stay compliant, because it's like, oh, I'm hungry. Let me go look in my pantry. Oh, well, I can grab some fruit, or I can grab, well, mostly it's fruit. But I mean, there's no bad choice in your environment. You don't have to worry about that temptation of that. And this diet succeeds easily in a clean environment. I see so many people trying to eat a keto diet or a carnivore diet or just low carb diets. And those diets don't succeed even in their own environment, because you're still able to eat ridiculous calories. You're still able, because your body's going to go for those calorie things. It's incredible. I've seen videos where people talk about, that they cook their food in lard, and we used to have recipes or things that would possibly use lard, but I just think about, that's where it eventually goes. Oh, you start this keto diet eating chicken breasts and eating lean cuts of beef, but then by the end of it, you're trying to find ways to add more and more calories to this small amount of food that you're eating. And you can overeat that food. Even if you're allowing yourself to have T-bone steaks, you can easily eat a volume of T-bone steaks that puts you in a calorie surplus. If your environment only has broccoli and potatoes around, really tough to eat a volume of that food that's going to put you in a calorie surplus. Hey, Gene, no problem. You have a great weekend. I hope everything goes great for you. And so this diet is easy. It really is. The difficult part is the temptations of the world. It's hard to avoid the temptations of sugar and the temptations of salt and the temptations of oil, like these foods. But if you have a full stomach, it's much easier to avoid those temptations of the world, because no matter what diet you go on, whether you eat a plant-based diet or Mediterranean diet or a low carb diet, no matter what diet you go on, the basis and the key to all of these diets is the removal of highly processed foods. That is what is putting an extra layer of fat on all of us, is the processed foods that we're surrounded by. So many of these diets, a common factor is removing processed foods. And that temptation of eating processed foods then is around all of those diets. It's not just a plant-based diet that you have to worry about highly processed foods. It's a Mediterranean diet. It's a Atkins or low carb. All these diets have that part, that living in the world that we have to deal with. But this diet makes it easier to deal with that, because you're not hungry. You're not dealing with the temptation of the world and hunger at the same time. You're just dealing with the temptation. And I faltered a couple times during my second year, but I was able to get back on track because I was able to eat a large volume of good food. And Carrie here says it is easy, but it is far easier at home, surrounded by people that eat similarly. Carrie said that this past weekend, she definitely had some salt and sugar on her vacation, but she's able to get back at it today. Yeah. Came home last night, had a big bowl of potatoes and broccoli, and she was back on track. Yeah. And there's not the temptations around the house. There's not the unique, I don't want to miss out on this opportunity to have some vegan ice cream that I'm never going to see if again, and you're able to live your life too, like you're able to go and do those things and come back home and get back on track. And you're not spending days fighting yourself to reestablish volume. Because I think that might be what people run into with these low carb diets, especially. I feel awful. I feel like I'm so lucky I didn't start eating a low carb diet. But these people on these low carb diets that end up being low volume diet, and then they cheat and they give their bodies that extra volume, and their body's like, hey, let's keep giving us that. If there's that volume around, let's keep it going. And it makes it difficult to go back on the diet. But with eating a plant-based diet, you're always putting the volume of food in. So even if you put food in that is not compliant, you aren't adding volume to your day. You're just changing some of the food that you're eating. And so the next day, you can still give your body that same volume. It's just not the same calorie content. Tennyson Yoga Girl here says that after 3 years on whole food plant-based, you have no desire for meat or dairy. Awesome. You still work and you're still a work in progress with sweets. Thankfully, you food prep to avoid temptation. And I think the longer that you're able to stick to it, the easier it gets to, I haven't had any animal products for 867 days. I have no desire for animal products. I don't have any drive for any specific, any animal product. Like it doesn't have any allure to me. And it hasn't for a long time. But like you said, the sweets absolutely are still tempting. The oils are still tempting. The sugars are still, or the salty stuff is still tempting. But if you take steps that will make staying on your diet easier than the alternative, you can avoid that. Like you said, you meal prep, you take away that temptation. And Carrie here says, at least you know your weakness too. And I think that maybe because of this diet, I've been able to focus my weakness and realize that it really is sweets. Sweet. All three of those sweets, like by the salt, the salty, the sweetness, and the oily are all just major temptations that we just gotta find, you just gotta find a way to keep it away. And if you're full, those sweets, they still may be tempting, but your body isn't going to push you as hard to eat them if you're still full. It's really been an amazing transformation for me mentally. I would not have told you, 3 years ago, if you'd asked me how I was feeling, I would have told you I felt amazing. I felt great. I would have lied. I would have, or maybe in some weird way, I believed it. I believed I believed I was healthier than somebody at my weight should be. So because of that, that must make me healthy. And realizing that that's not the case. Even on my best day at 520 pounds, I would never come close to how I am on my worst day from here forward. Like, it's just not, it's just not comparable. 235. I'm 20 pounds away from, or 240, but I'm 20 pounds away from half of the weight that I used to carry around. And I just, like, I look at, what I don't think I can see it here, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I look at the pedometer on my hand that I have on my watch. And when I first started this challenge, my steps per day were down around 2,500 to 3,000 steps, maybe a day. And now I do double that just living. And that's not, I don't go and do extra walks, and I don't go to the gym. I don't do anything that would increase those steps other than the fact that I'm 240 pounds lighter, and it's easier for me to just get up and do something myself as opposed to asking somebody else to do it, or just waiting until later to do something, or deciding not to do something because I don't want to exert the energy. I don't have those conversations with myself anymore, or I don't do the, and it probably wasn't even conversation. It would just be subconsciously, as I wouldn't even try. I would just be like, oh, that can wait, or I can do that later. And that leads to a more sedentary life. And now I get up, I do things. I went out and played with the dogs the other day because I felt like they had been cooped up for too much in the house. And that's not something that I would have done 240 pounds ago. And at the end of all of it, the thing that I feel the luckiest for is that I've regained my life and my health, and I've regained a future that I was letting slip away. Because even if I would have lived for another 40 years, I would have lived that 40 years doing a third of the steps that I was doing half of the steps I was doing. I would have lived I would have been half as active as I am now, and I'm going to only get more active. And so that means, that activeness, those steps that I see that just passively changed, that is the difference between watching my life just pass me by and becoming an active member of my life, and being able to participate in future events and not shying away from being seen in public. And yeah, Carrie says here, I'm adding life to my years. Because with modern technology, we can make people tick on and on and on for a long time. But if you're doing so at the cost of your mobility and your ability to breathe and your ability to sleep, you're just wasting so much time. So yes, I am extremely lucky that I found this. I'm lucky to be alive in some ways. I really do feel lucky to be alive, because I don't think that I make it much longer if I was still 520 pounds. I don't do this, and maybe instead of 520 pounds, 860 67 days later, I'm 550 pounds. I'm 580 pounds. I'm 600 pounds. You know, like I was putting weight on at a pretty steady pace, and I was just becoming more sedentary. So it was just making it easier for my body to pack it on. Carrie here says that she definitely appreciates the changes in that respect, having more of a partner around the house to do things like housework and running around the kids to different things. Yeah, absolutely. You know, and there was some of that mental yucky that I was talking about earlier, is not feeling like you're being a good enough partner or a good enough parent or a good enough friend because of your weight. Like choosing not to go to a friend's event because you'd be uncomfortable either in the seating or just in the environment, you know, like that takes you away from that friend. That'll, you know, you're allowing your obesity to affect your life. And we just kind of brush it off like, well, it's just part of being this way. At least I don't have, you know, like how many times did I think, at least I don't have that. At least I don't have that. And I was continuing to get closer to the point where I wasn't going to be able to keep saying, at least I don't have that. So that's going to be it for me today. I appreciate everybody popping on stream here and participating in on the conversation. If you guys have not subscribed to the channel, make sure you get subscribed to the channel. If you've not clicked on the bell icon, click on that bell icon so you get alerted when I go live or post new videos. If you've not liked this video, comment down below. How do you feel lucky that you found a plant-based diet? Or how do you still feel lucky because you haven't found yucky because you haven't found a plant-based diet? And if you haven't started your diet yet, get started right now. There's nothing coming up that's more important than your health and your overall well-being. There's nobody that gets to their goal weight, looks back and wishes that they would have waited. Everybody wishes they would have gotten started sooner. So get started right now, guys. You all have a great St. Patrick's Day today, and you have a wonderful weekend. I will see you on Monday.